My name is Anthony Wall, and this is a video about how the Democratic Convention and about how all the treatments of the elections are involved with remote uses of their defenses of that, where they are criminally foreign influenced, and their topics. For example, they have Weathersfield Heights is associated with Weathersfield, Connecticut, where they have narratives and people pretending passions and emotions honestly, but also simultaneously dishonestly, regarding how there is inequality with housing. And this is in relationship to, since before cars, Weathersfield, Connecticut, and between New York and Boston, the North had roles with slavery since before our founding parents were born. Sickly distinctly per a breaching method that used and uses how sickly non-distinctly was undiscerned, and how sickly non-distinctly was in relationship to a breaching method, a predicate acts delivery system method that was causing negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. There had to be that a breaching method knew that everyone would have to respond to as fact sheet in nature. Then they would have to defend their responses. Incapable of simultaneously defending that and ourselves from what exploits them using self-valued, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, finite active and progressive, facts, truth, value treatments, positive treatments, negative treatments, identity treatments. So, identity has 1/3/5 parts. Any identity of value, or any identity of value progression, even something made up, has where it is as itself. That as is equivalent with two more, it comes with two more identities of complete possession. Where and how we are value as nature / nature as value. And where and how that is further positive or negative in relationship to a value progression system that is perfect. That which revealed humanity in species as individuals grouped and together. In demonstration of its invisible but still discernible identity of volume /S. Identity of invisible but still discernible. Identities of distinct, invisible, but still discernible, invisible volume. So we'll examine prayer before it was associated with faith. It was associated with the scientific observation of invisible but still discernible. Identity of volume, where value is nature / nature is value. And where it can only be discerned by how it is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. The other invisible but still discernible identities of volume as value as nature / nature as value. It is in relationship to the invention that the identity of value / value progression that inventions work or not in relationship to it. They are further positive or negative in relationship to it. So this is how we and where we are correlation nature, a trinity. So they have fact treatments, each age of fact treatment nature. So overall now, self-value, fake sides of them. So they have the Republicans, the Democrats, they have the alternatives in collusion through uses of identity, the ground, locations, and of other people's names, identities, and debate of fact treatments. Proofs of this is also how they're preventing mandated law outside of courts because of the evidence fabrication that the courts and that the police forms and that the political families use distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously to hide remote uses of themselves since they were little kids. They are victim predators. Every modern nation's opinion natures. See, correlation knows that the reason the correlation knows that even the suburbs are designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures since before our founding parents were even born. those crazy laws against everyone. And that's evidence. But rather than have that evidence quickly known, understood, they replace that with things like opinions and conviction natures and physical delusions and criminally formed people pretending it's breaching screen too, pretending it's things like prejudice. That breaching method put those crazy laws distinctly against people, so we would fight then now, not just then. So humanity would fight to be individuals grouped in species as fact-sheep in nature, tactical ulterior from how we are fact-sheep in nature, actually individually grouped and together, which is about the invisible but still discernible. It's all right if someone wants to debate such. Follow mandated law first, though. I asked you first. For a long time, I've asked for a response. There are a whole bunch of people with the name Dylan and tied to them, dozens and dozens of names, involved with New Britain Superior Court and with Wethersfield Police Department, with predicate acts on and off my street through time, and with park locations, and with people associated with Wethersfield Heights involved with identity theft frauds, and where and how we have black and white leaders that are used remotely, and they're using their own identities and ours remotely, and with physical delusions, and as rules crimes predators. So follow the rules for Connecticut interbranch and for interstates interbranch. Follow the rules, follow mandated law, because these child offenders are also elderly offenders and also further involved with the World Trade Center leading up to the attack. And in it, they're also tied to Washington, D.C. and to the Pentagon. For example, for the natures of identity thefts and frauds roles with military families in my town that I don't know. They tried to film others sometimes. We'll also examine how they do that so people, per their roles with identity theft frauds, is clear as day. Not one time anyone ever allows anyone to speak about the identity thefts and frauds against black people. Even black people won't let you talk about it that way. They want to call it prejudice because of the way they're sickly, distinctly hurt. Specifically to keep that. And white people want to do that too. All fake sides of the human species identity of how we're actually bonded. Arrays of opinions and convictions recorded. They can't defend themselves without self-valuing criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, finite active progressive treatments of truth, positive, all that shares an identity. And that's why and how they can't take proper identity treatments. So the identity of the ground, other people's names has a tie to our fact-sheep nature in ways everyone missed. How it's being exploited too. Everyone forced to speak through other people's other things. That's why it's necessary to have told on all the ways they have their investigations, investigators, and vetting identities. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, is involved with a whole bunch of proven federal criminals of different natures in various cases, but he's also involved with them and with their family members and with Connecticut courts and other police forms, leading up to and in a 2006 district court case, and leading up to and in a part of a case /S in the Ninth Circuit Court in Manhattan, right before the World Trade Center. Those same ones are involved with identity thefts and frauds. There's a whole bunch of people with their Scalora families involved with Demora families, and others on off Central Connecticut State University involved with a Hanson family, and with other houses on Church Street in Old Wethersfield involved with doctors, foreign and domestic, and nurses' families, foreign domestics, overt criminal enterprises involved with them, and with their sexual circles that are also involved with the interbranch predicate acts, mail crime, wire crime, identity thefts, and frauds. Now these are also people with remote uses of our black and white leaders, opinion natures, and their uses of our identities and everyone's uses of theirs. While they are the ones preventing mandated law, WFSB also fabricated audio and video with black and white female judges recorded involved with predicate acts with people associated with military police that are KKK themed, Confederate flag themed. They're also involved with, these are the people involved with military, foreign, and domestic. Per their roles with the uses of identity ground locations, like in West Hartford and the South Steen Highway. For example, people that run the that work with the systems where they have leasing agents of apartment rental places and stuff like that. Those are the people involved with those investigators involved with all kinds of natures of drugs, crimes, and medicine crimes. Excuse me. For example, we're the people supposed to be against that because of how various natures of courts and their family members are involved with what methods of wire crimes, methods of mail crimes, methods of child abuses, identity thefts, and frauds that are database oriented, but it kept and keeps them needing to hide lie progressions from all formal positions of opinion/conviction nature. Maintained in collusion with that which is simultaneously kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, and progressive lies. Private is at the same time overt criminal enterprises. The same way higher level programming languages have to mimic, try to pretend, try to separate space and use to simultaneously do parts of the calculation and then put them all together, because they can't do everything linear. Then they can put it back linear in relationship to where and how the circuits work, the value/value progression that is invisible but still discernible. But anything that is invisible but still discernible, individually grouped and together, that is still only a semi-nature relationship, while it is a simultaneous nature, a semi-nature relationship to the rest of itself. That it simultaneously goes by its system, or it is forced from here. Earth's distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature is where Earth is where one identity of value progression can make more forever nature that is also positive unto itself. But where and how that is no longer possible, because humanity has criminally foreign influence, human fact-shaping nature, because humanity's identity ground, conjunctions to our fact-shaping nature, as tactically ulterior from its own value nature systems, like markets positions, like everything in that, like identity itself, is a value/value progression system. Now science reveals this. But this is about where the sciences share an identity. And this is about where the identity the sciences share on the ground, identity ground locations wise, individually grouped and together. Those identities are criminally foreign influence and delusions wrought. Self-value victims as styles of rules, crimes, predators. Self-valuing it to get away with it, demonstration of it. Needing to value the perfect world, forsaken and blamed on other things other than themselves, even when correctly, blaming it per uses of premises, treatment, sequence, treatment, such identity treatments that are applied by a breaching method. A breaching method employed everyone is sick, crazy laws against everyone else as fact-cheating nature, and that was force sustained. Everyone was a fact-cheating nature slave since semi-ancient times. And they had to counter a lot of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, because nature demonstrates that. The suburbs throughout America and throughout other countries, no one realized those victim countries, modern countries. No one realized the roads, the narratives with the roads. The improvement was through contrast, which is used to bury while criminally re-engineering narratives about the ancients, while criminally re-engineering and criminally investing defenses of such for all kinds of juxtaposed motivations, natures, needs, interests, breaching screen tool, weapon of the one that they don't even understand. So we have obligations as science, as correlation nature. Even especially differentially, if we are scientists or not. In other words, if there's someone's at a identity of the ground location that works as in a science in a field, so they're working in where the perfect world was already forsaken, already self-valued forsaken, and that already had being and having been exploited. So it is recorded also how all the people tied to the courts and to the police forms, like prison stewards and their family members and everyone's neighbors, is being exploited, how we are a value/value progression. The roads, again, the way they set up the infrastructure. They set everything up to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while they were engineering everybody only capable of self-valuing, as victim reactions not fathoming. Because of all the things, they were separated from their actual quality of education too, the Native Americans. Only the extent of it is debatable. And who debates such has to defend their position. They have to self-value criminally foreign influence sequence treatments, premises treatments, active, progressive, and identity treatments. We're going to examine the 1/3 parts. 1/3/5 we'll examine. Because it's how one identity's identity of relationship to itself and the value of that only increasing is the phenomenon/phenomena that enables its one identity of value to be seen anyway, discerned anyway, using science. Now this is how the ancients knew how to cause evolution's fruits and gifts. By going by what's going to be positive to its perfect value progression/value progression system. We are a value/value progression as a quality of diffusion, positive or negative, in relationship to its perfect value progression system that will only stay positive to itself. And all exceptions in exception nature that appear to say other, they are actually in demonstration of the same thing. See, an archetypal breaching method forced everyone to self-value the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures to be blamed on other things other than themselves. When they're going along, every individual grouping together as a value/value progression, wanting to be about and stay about positive. Wanting to be about and stay about science. So it is important to understand all the ways recorded, how it is self-valued by a bridge science is only allowed to be standing. It's alright if they have paintings and stuff other, but follow mandated law, because that's where you can prove it, outside of courts. See, those crazy laws, they had criminally foreign influenced. Everyone was a victim, including the judges, the prosecutors, all the employees of their courts, all the police forms. They were identity ground locations that were/are being and having been used remotely. Every identity ground location, every individual. Those laws were so sick and extent. So if anyone would say things needed to be said and held on to have a unity capable of making any kind of a change. Not further invested by the breaching method roles, screens, tools, weapons, worse. So in other words, we have to be a quality of fact treatment nature that follows mandated law outside of courts and outside of police locations where they have been fabricating audio and video with other countries. They have been kept needing to, this is a method that effectively keeps countries that have nuclear weapons simultaneously with identities of law and of agencies incapable of defending themselves and defending ourselves from things like war and things, negative value nature progression is totally out of control and unneeded in the first place. From what kept them needed, and keeps the exception nature demonstrating opposite from what they're really supposed to demonstrate. See, and everyone has to blame. So everyone has to hide from what is actually capable of being discerned by correlation nature. It shows that everywhere we had any kind of a fact-shaping nature, formally and informally, everyone's in collusion. So we have innocent people in jails, consciously. People are pretending they don't realize. They know this. They have people that were sustained victims that are in jail because they did things true, but they did things bad. But when they did things bad too, those identity ground locations, their identities and the people involved were already being and having been used as victims themselves that needed to react to it in relationship to the noted negative value nature progressions, action natures. Humanity is in an identity of negative value nature progression that is by a breaching method effectively maintained self-valued, and that's maintained exploited. And that because it's not just was already having been exploited, all identity ground locations. Those formal exploitations, inter-branch, inter-sciences, inter-database relationships, private, other, overt criminal enterprise juxtaposed in there. Because this is an identity racketeering method. Way worse than that. Way worse than war crimes, but a simple predicate X delivery system method. Which needs to have simple. Separated from from what they call simple. America can understand this. But not and entertain the positive and negative treatments and the self-defenses of themselves. People who teach about American history. People who teach about each science. Because they came through schools. For example, you have to understand the movement behind James Madison. How James Madison's plan caused the Boston Tea Party. How other had to be pretended by everybody. And they had to, pray to God, the unity that they were only allowed to defend themselves from would hold. And that unity was not supposed to be claimed, yet liberated. See, so we have natures of debates and uses of passions or emotions by what they call good people interbranch, by what they call about people trying to pretend about making opinions about other people's passions and emotions. They're fabricating audio and video, their sequence shifts, your identity thefts and frauds roles. We have so many countless dollars just from Connecticut medical campuses involved with medicines racketeering, worse than war crimes, involved with identity theft, frauds, involved with wire crime, mail crimes, involved with various natures of courts, their family members all tied to them, police forms, military. They're just stacking live aggression cover-ups because of their roles with identity thefts. So you have to follow mandated law outside of the court. So you have to understand the passions and emotions they need to fake are tied to that. That's why Wethersfield police involved with the Wethersfield town officers crank calling my house, switching names, which is worse than extortion per their mail crime, wire crime rolls. I caught them with untimely deaths rolls with other natures of predicate acts and people connected on and off Trinity College campus with untimely death roll, other natures of organized crime there, with the same people involved with predicate acts on my street here. And the same ones were involved on and off the street next to, on and off Central Connecticut State University in New Britain too. When I say my street here is in Wethersfield. Excuse me. Excuse me. Don't forget that this is where George Washington had to come to leave slavery. Had to recruit French generals' help to win the last battle of the Revolutionary War before they could do that. The houses around the Cove and the Department of Motor Vehicle and the houses along Church Street, right around the corner from the Webb House. Now they call it the Webb Stevens House, Webb Stevens Museum, whatever. This is where George Washington had to come. Forced by also by James Madison's plan. And in other words, no one had the strength to liberate. In other words, the pathology of the houses, the streets, the way they unfold and are means to them individually grouped in together today. It was affected back then by a worse than just slavery method that was sustained. So they used concepts, fact treatments where they make sides of them. Well, this is my opinion. What's your opinion? But at least they only allow opinions and sides if they're gonna be furthering worse than obfuscation of correlation nature, which is a trinity. Nothing is binary. For example, even where they have binary, it's either 1 or 0. But it's a circuit that has a relationship to it. It's a circuit that has a relationship to itself, to the temporary / lasting value / value progression. Involved with the data stream. We are way more than data. See, but people who want to pretend we're more and stuff like that, they want to keep it on a theater. That theater cannot defend itself and afford to have anyone who's going to speak not as theater with any location, area, and state to use actual science, which works with sequence true, which does not ignore the finite, the value of it, or the order. This is correlation. What is true always, while as exceptions, as itself, is in demonstration of us and of what to do about everything if we allow science, correlation, nature, our actual means that actually long by and capable of being had by every single individual across the entire globe. We're in a semi-ancient trap. And words like democracy, words like value / value progression like democracy, like the republic, like campuses, like politics, those are only having been heard, used with criminal foreign influences, simultaneously with physical delusions, simultaneously in collusion with rules, within as rules predators. And then To hide that, they need to hide live progressions. They need to value voices of innocent people and of people that that they just, they did. Of course, they're going to keep doing wrong. But then that wrong is being used to hide their own live progressions. But they're already used all identity ground locations. Again, too, with physical delusions. So no voice ever spoke for any location, let alone our most forsaken locations. No voice ever spoke for our means. Sorry, a company's going to have to do it for it. That's the free market. How are we going to pay for building this new thing? There's never been a free market. You have to heal the tactically denatured, tactically maintained, tactically effectively maintained self-value, criminally foreign influence identity ground locations, and uses of that. So follow mandated law, WFSB, fabricated audio and video. They're pretending passions and emotions for their roles with locations crimes, because there are various natures of courts and police forms that we are using and having used their family members, investigators to hide remote uses of themselves, to hide remote uses of the black families in my town. Through time, interbranch roles with interbranch child abuses, predicate acts, federal crimes with evidences that connect to their crimes with databases, illusions, uses of investigators, their own kids and the kids around their kids, inclusion also with private school kids involved with the database, how the methods they're using. So they prevent anyone for response. The courts use crime methods with the police individually and grouped. For example, putting charges but not putting anything in writing, and using confessions for threats about how they make mistakes with police reports and with their mouths, and where they won't talk, and when the only time they talk is they're trying to establish truths that they use to lie and pretend that they don't. That's why we have to deal with their physical delusions interbranch at the same time, also recorded. Now these are cliques interbranch that are also involved with the Leahy family and other doctors, foreign and domestic, in various natures of courts, personally criminally involved with them, with drugs crimes and medicines crimes with kids, and with their family members, attaching little kids and their family members fake locations. These are also people with various agencies, not just former director of the FBI in his defendant capacities, no. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of people tied to this Leahy family, leading up to and in a 2006 case. And after it, they attached me to fake conversations. I never had a conversation with the Leahy family in my life. There was also a Brian Silver, and our dozens of people, male and female prosecutors, retired and standing, and all the people associated with dozens of people just with New Britain Superior Court alone. But the New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts were all recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved before the World Trade Center attack, with investigators, criminally uses of identity ground locations, criminally intercities, and on-off child campuses, and on-off body dumping spots, and other natures of identity ground locations they used for their own, where that was mixed, where they have predicate acts rules also, and or wrongdoing rules. Identity thefts and frauds roles with those killers and the people associated with those body dumping spots. Just happened to be where those killers and those people had, before that was found out, had roles with the various natures of courts criminally involved. Also leading, these are Wethersfield interbranch, but it's intercities, Connecticut, leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack. World Trade Center has ties to Wethersfield families that have my name used through time, where they have investigators, and vetting identities, where the Justice Department was used remotely, already is used remotely, and that's self-value, because they're victim predators. look around when you see, well, all the imposition. Oh, it's the environment, though. There's much that wasn't caused by anybody, that was designed specifically for our people to blame on other things other than themselves. Where and how it causes negative value nature progressions, action natures. It was designed to have people value that, because then they can't defend the words of identity, the short words. So increasingly they can't defend active words and progressive words properly. So increasingly everyone values theater positive and negative treatments, theater identity treatments only having been spoken. They pretend to be about empathy. They're doing this tied to how they have the news, fabricating audio and video. They have the news people with kids. So then they hear someone talking about, fix the news. They have wire crime the people that answer the phones at the people involved with newspapers and other media that are also involved with the courts and the police forms, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, not just themselves, but they're on off their locations is involved. So Wethersfield and Connecticut, let's get a response, because on off Fox Connecticut News, there's a Domain family and there is a Mendez family that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with police forms intercities and on off the buildings next to Fox Connecticut News involved with identity thefts and frauds with police families and with courts families involved with predicate acts with them, also with private. And now there are people associated with a church there and with other churches and other types of churches and other religious locations and sensibilities like that, in relationship to where they have formal physical delusions, where they're experts on logic, where they're involved with identity thefts and frauds, because they've been kept needing to hide lie progressions with what is maintained interbranch criminally foreign influence delusions raw. Uses of all aspects of each identity of the law, like this distinct, like a CIA or FBI. They're criminally foreign influence. They can't speak for. When did they have the integrities to speak regarding predicate acts or slavery? If science spoke with integrity, evolution's fruits and gifts and means, and fact, human nature right now, identity nature right now, everyone will be able to agree. Because way more than this is capable, that's what's actually recorded, of being afforded by each individual. We have self-valued, tactically, sickly, breaching method employed, human value nature standards, human narratives in regarding that. So follow mandated law for Wethersfield interbranch and for the private news. Also, their sources are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts with them, with child abuses, elderly abuses, identity thefts, frauds, mail crime methods, wire crime methods, forging names and switching names, the executive police forms, and the judicial families, sickly, distinctly, and non-distinctly. That's evidence. Follow mandated law for Fox Connecticut News. Please, Fox News. And please, because they're not fixing their things. And they switch names interbranch. They recorded interbranch, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed. They pretended I had conversations with my family about things I never did, because I told about things online. They had to hide what they're doing. So they had to pretend I had conversations that other people talked about such. They can't put anything into words. So they have everyone making allegations against people, calling people, oh, they're this. They're pretending to be against bullying because they're online every single day, right, in presidential debates, calling people names. Sick premises treatments, sequence shift roles, cover-ups of what led up to in the World Trade Center attack context, Washington, D.C., World Trade Center, as those involved with what is manifest intra-campuses and is inter-campuses and is exploited off campuses further and further. And that is further and further self-valued roles with what is already allocations since before our founding parents' births. This is already the method against Native Americans A through Z, already separated from proper science. Already other passions, emotions, offensively, all kinds of motivations, needs, interests, styles of liars need to hide that from what is actually discernible.